Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howes.
And good evening. Welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us on this Monday night, June 22nd, 2026. My guests tonight are going to include Dr. Rob Lindsted. We're going to have on with us Patrick Wood, Annie Cyrus, and a first-time guest, Ari. Ari is going to join us tonight. Ari Goldberg. Ari Goldberg, first-time guest tonight, a long-time listener. He is a Messianic Jewish gentleman and a real student of history. He emailed me something very interesting over the weekend. I said, wow, would you be willing to come on TV and talk about this? And I went and researched, and he's a long-time listener, but a first-time guest tonight. And then Dr. Rob Lindsted, he's going to be our first guest up tonight. He called me a couple of weeks ago and told me about, well, what he's struggling with, a health crisis. And we talked about it. We've had a few conversations, talked again over the weekend. And I said I would want to invite you to come on the broadcast to speak directly to our audience. We have a lot of the same supporters, people that pray for us. Dr. Lindsted and I have been working together now 30 years. We got interviews where I'm interviewing him going back in the early 90s, mid 90s. So I said, I think our audience would want to hear directly from you if you don't mind. He said, absolutely, I will gladly come on. He has received a very serious diagnosis from his doctor on Friday, and he's going to be first up to talk about that and where we're going from here. We'll also talk a little bit about the Middle East, I'm sure, with him as well. And then, of course, as I said, Patrick Wood, Annie Cyrus, and Ari will join us. Big night tonight on many, many topics like this one. Iran, the goal was always economic reintegration, not containment. Let's see what Patrick Wood has to say about that. I've already covered that one on radio today. Here we cover this one. J.D. Vance, he's saying a lot today. He's frustrating a lot of people, talking about Lebanon and what Israel's doing, and talking about his two favorite people in his life, important people in my life, an Indian and a Pakistani. Then he is here talking about Israel. They can't just, deal, well, quote, what is your exact proposal? Your country of 9 million people. You can't just kill your way out of solving every single national security problem that you have, end quote. Really? Is that what Israel does? I don't think so. I don't like that. I don't like his attitude. I don't like his tone. I don't care about tone. I don't like his attitude. And I don't like what he's saying. I don't like the words. People say, I don't like your tone. Well, I'm not as worried about people's tones. I'm worried about what he actually says. I don't like what he's saying. I don't think he's helping the problem of which we're trying to tamp down, and that's the anti-Semitism. Let's see. Iran will use unfrozen funds to buy American crops. Let's see what Annie Cyrus thinks about that one. Robert Spencer, Trump could have been a contender. Dealt with that in my worldview report tonight. Here's another one. IDF takes over massive Hezbollah tunnel full of rocket-firing shafts in southern Lebanon. Yeah. Iranian with direct ties to IRGC tried to enter U.S. posing as World Cup soccer team president, says the Department of Homeland Security. All right. What else we got? All kinds of stuff. I guess that's about it. I got a bunch of clips. I got some clips I want to play. Mike Huckabee saying some things. They're very interesting. Checking Truth Social to make sure he still has a job. Why? Why would he need to do that? Several very interesting clips from Mike Huckabee tonight. Annie Cyrus will respond to all those as my last guest. All right. We always appreciate your being here with us. Before we go to Dr. Rob Lindsted, tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social, get everybody on board here, would you? Remember, our two-volume set, my two-volume set's coming out this fall. It went to page layout today. 2,100 pages, 2,100 pages, two-volume set is now available for you to make a pre-order. It is hardcover. It is squared. The binding is squared on the corners, not rounded, but squared. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but that mattered to me. I want it to look very, very classic. The page layout is going to be a very classic page layout because this is a very important book and I want it to look really high end. It is going to be high end. Great content, but great presentation. 2,100 pages, two-volume set. So it went to page layout today, folks. So we're moving along quickly. We're a little ahead of schedule, to be honest with you. So get your pre-order in, would you? Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. They make great gifts, Christmas gifts, very evangelistic gift. as well to give to people that maybe aren't Christians but are interested in these topics. And you know what? There are a lot of people today who are not Christians, will tell you that, but they find the Bible interesting and they want to know more about the Bible, and particularly prophecy and revelation. And Bible sales in America and the UK are going up. So a lot of people might find this a very good gift. And it also is evangelistic. The gospel's given many, many times throughout this 2,100 pages. I promise you that was by design, sprinkling the gospel all through this 2,100 pages. So get your order in if you would. I'm excited to announce real soon some of the other books I have coming out. Biblically Refuting the Heresy of Calvinism. That will be out this fall. I'm about done with that one. One on Hamas. One on Why I'm a Christian Zionist. We have some very important books coming out this fall. But this is the one I really want you to concentrate on, if you would, please, there at worldviewstore.com. All right, before we go to Dr. Rob Lindsted, please remember we are brought to you by you. You can support us by buying great things like our Bible commentary, my Bible commentary on Revelation. But you can also go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors and check out all these great products that we ourselves use, like the Worldview Talk page, solar generators, satellite phones, bulletproof backpacks, clothing, pillowcases, sheets, blankets that knock down EMF, and so much more. Don't forget about worldviewwater.net. We're selling a ton of these. And we really have. This has been a really good product for us. I have one on my kitchen sink and my shower to take out all those harmful and dangerous chemicals. MelissaProtein.com. A lot of you are starting to order this. Melissa, the other day, had a handful of these. I said, babe, how many of those do you take? Seven. And I actually said to her last night, she was standing at the kitchen counter washing some dishes, and she had a pair of shorts on, and I said, your legs are looking so thin. Have you lost weight? You're looking for really lost weight. And I don't know what caused me to notice this now, but I did. I'm like, you're looking thin, I don't think you need to go any further. I said, how much you've lost? She said, I think about 7 pounds. But she's toning up with she's working with a little bit of weights. And then she also does this protein, because you don't want to drop muscle mass. As we get older, we have to be careful not to lose our muscle. So that's why she likes the protein, among other things. Curbs her appetite too, and boosts her energy. MelissaProtein.com. Of course, we do the Gatatano. Melissa and I do. Dolly gets a half a scoop in her food every morning. That is a powerful phytoplankton, folks, for boosting your own body's immune system to fight off all the bad stuff in our world that gets into our bodies sometime. So MelissaHouseGPA.com. We know the glutathione detoxes your cells. Some studies show it may remove mercury from your brain and help prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's, removing lead. Bella Grace, I take it every day. Already had it today. That's loaded with 3 powerful ingredients. This is something that about 80% of the people get it, stay on it, because it works for them like it does us. Otherwise, they wouldn't stay on it. We get so many testimonials regularly on what it does for people. And they're worried that this may not always be available. Melissa says that to me all the time. You do think this company's going to stay around years from now, right? I can't imagine what we'd do if they didn't have it. Some of our problems that we cured would come back. I'm like, I know, but I think they're going to stay around. They now just opened up in the UK and other places. The company's doing good. Bella Grace. So get on board with it. A daily elixir. MelissaHouseBG.com, MelissaHouseBG.com. Worldview Healthcare, get your own antibiotics, your own medicine kit, if you will, your own urgent care in your closet, all there. All of this is at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. I hope again you'll tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social. My friend Dr. Rob Lindsted's coming on next year to make a very important announcement, and you're going to want to hear it, and we're all going to pray. And you'll understand more because he's going to join us right now. Joining me now is Dr. Rob Lindsted. Boy, there's a lot going on to talk with Dr. Rob about. But before we get to the Middle East news, I want to talk to him about his, recent diagnosis, because I've been getting a lot of emails because I think it slipped out on Facebook and other places. And many of you have been emailing and texting me, wanting to know, do you know about the medical diagnosis from Dr. Rob Lindsted? Can you bring us an update? Well, I talked to him several times over the last couple of weeks about this, and I want him to bring the update himself to our listening friends. Dr. Rob and I have been working together now for over 30 years, or right at 30 years. I found one of the first recordings we ever did back in the 90s. He joins us now, Dr. Rob Lindsted. Dr. Rob, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be with you. And thanks for your friendship over those 30 years. Wow. I remember some of those first conferences that we had together, and great time, great enthusiasm. And to watch what God has done through your ministry is really, it's a blessing. It's encouraging.
Well, you're kind, and you've been a big part of helping me understand Bible prophecy and to get excited about it and study it and learn it. And so you've had a big influence on us here and on me personally, which has impacted this network. So you called me a couple weeks ago and told me what was going on. And then Friday, you got a formal diagnosis. Can you let our audience know what's going on?
Yes, I can. On Friday, I met with the oncologist, cancer doctor, and he said, right now, he said, I think you're stage 3 esophagus and stomach cancer. They're going to have me do one more test because there's still an outside chance that it could have spread to other organs in my body, lymph nodes and so on. But he said, I don't think so. But he said, if it's stage 4, he said, then frankly, he said, we're talking weeks or months. And I said, well, I see Christmas. He said, no, probably not. But he said, if it's 3, he said, it depends on how aggressive you want to go. I said, well, we'll take the test to make sure. But if it's 3, then I want to be aggressive. And so he said, you've got 3 or 4 things going against you. And I said, well, I've got 3 or 4 things going for me. So he began to say, here's what I got going against me. First of all, my age. I'm 80 years old. And he said, because I said surgery would be my first choice, and we can remove it surgically. He said, I can't recommend that because he said the esophagus stomach surgery that they do, they cut off part of your esophagus, they move your stomach up. And he said, I'm just going to tell you, it's a horrible recovery. It's 3 to 6 months, even if you're 40 or 50 years old. And so he said, the other thing you got going against you, he said, you're losing weight. And I have. I've lost 30 pounds, and I was so proud of myself last week. I didn't lose any weight. Before, I'd see a plate of cookies, and I'd say, man, I'd sure like to eat a cookie. And he said, well, if you see a cookie now, eat 2 of them, because he said you need calories. With esophagus cancer, there's a mass in my esophagus. It's growing, and it's grown even since they detected it. So we know it's active. It is malignant, and it's all the way around the esophagus. And so we need to see how far it's penetrated into the esophagus, and then they need to kill it and stop it from continuing its growth. So he said, you need calories, and he said, you fight cancer best when you're rested. So my schedule, I kind of enjoy, I work about 20 hours a day. I sleep 3 or 4 hours a night. And so he said, your schedule's got to change, your diet's got to change, and you've got to put some priority on these things. So those are the bad things, is that I can't afford to lose weight. I'm anemic. I'm taking stuff to help that. The cancer is bleeding. But having said all that, I got some things going for me. Number one, I got prayer. Brandon, I've had a golden life, and no one's had a better life than me. Not even you. I'm studying Hebrews 11. Abraham didn't have as good as I do. Moses didn't. David didn't. I mean, think about the life God has given me. I've traveled to Israel 70 times. I've been to China multiple times, Russia a couple dozen times, Romania, Egypt probably 35 or 40, Jordan that many or more. Wow. Every day I get to tell children at school about Jesus Christ. I've seen schools in America. I've seen them in Burma and in Lebanon and in Haiti and Guatemala. I mean, in Wu. Wow, what more could a person ask for? In my own school, I get to teach honors Bible class. I get to teach calculus. I know that doesn't sound like a big deal to some people, but if you know how much I loved math, and for God to allow me to teach that with a Christian perspective, these are incredible blessings. So God has given me the best life, and so I think the last lap that He gives me is going to be just as fantastic as the first 80 years He's given me. I know. Well, matter of fact, they told me I have little C, but I also have big C. Little C is cancer. Big C is Christ. And I'm not running into the arms of death. For my wife's sake, I'm her caregiver. She's losing her sight, and we've been married 56 years, and actually 58 years. I better get that right, or I'm in trouble. And I'm her caregiver. And so it's going to be tough for her. And I'm her eyes. I'm her go to the store and buy whatever we need. I take her. I don't cook, but I'm writing a book on 100 ways to do drive-through. And so it's a real change of roles, because now suddenly she's trying to get me to eat. She's trying to take care of me. But I look at this and I say, wow, God has been so good. Secondly, I'm not convinced that this is going to kill me. And here's why. I think the rapture could be today. And so when I got up this morning, I'm going to tell you, I felt so good. Matter of fact, I told the ladies in my office, I said, I don't even think I got cancer. I said, I feel that good. I'm not in pain. Yeah, I had to eat soup for breakfast, and actually ate a baby food, squeeze bottle thing. Oh boy. So it's not the diet that I want. But he said, if you can't get enough calories, he said, we'll put a feeding tube in your stomach. And Sunday morning, I had the strength to deliver the message. And I've been able to keep up on our daily shows. And by God's grace, we're still doing the weekend shows.
And you're in the classroom teaching?
Well, we're out for summer break.
Oh, that's right.
And
that's right.
Yeah.
How would I not know that? But then again, my day is like Groundhog Day. So my kids are all grown. So I actually lose track of where we're at on the calendar. I said that to my wife the other day. When the kids grow up, you lose track of the calendar. But have you had interaction from your kids? I would eventually, a lot of the your students are reaching out to you, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I've got ex-students who are in the MBA, and I've got MBA techs. I've got my contacts in Israel. It's unbelievable. I mean, when I say a couple hundred a day, I can't even text back all the people. I go to Spanish Wells in the Bahamas. I got close friends there. Our families love those people, and they've traveled with me to Romania, to Russia, to Israel, to Burma. They served in my daughter's wedding, and I have whole churches that have special prayer meetings. So that's why I say at this point, I'm going to take it day by day. 2 Timothy says this. He said, "I fought a good fight. I finished the course. Hence I've laid upon me a crown of righteousness, not to me only, but to all those who love His appearing." I want to be among those that love His appearing. And so every day I say, wow, I'm probably going to cheat death today because the Lord may come. And so I didn't choose death. I didn't choose cancer, but God allowed me to have it. And so my job is to show that I can be faithful. When God gives you 80 years of the most incredible life, there's nothing I dreamed about that God didn't allow me to do. Think about going to Russia and handing out Bibles, 5 million Bibles. Think about getting on a ship and going down the Volga River and exposing people for the gospel for the first time. There were nights that we'd have hundreds of people come to Christ. What more could a person ask for in this life? And so if He decides that my time is going to be before He comes, then I can say, thank you, Lord. Because He always chooses the best. He's not going to choose the second best. He's going to choose the best. So if it's death before the rapture, I'll take what He chooses. But until I know that, I'm going to fight it with everything I've got. And some of the things I'm taking some drug. Matter of fact, Brandon, you're going to be happy today. I ordered plankton from your wife's website today.
Yes.
And I've got a couple other things I'm taking, and I'm sure if my doctor sees this, I'll be in trouble because I'm not going to report those to him. But I think there's some cures for things that are going on that and so my faith is in Christ. I'm willing to try, and boy, I have so many. When I tell you I've got 30 or 40 or maybe 50 remedies for cures, I'm cutting it little. I can only do 3. I've got the 3 picked out that I'm doing, and then I'm praying, God, my time is in your hand. If you want me to live 2 more weeks, or if you want me to live 2 more years, or 15 years, help me to honor you every day you give me. And so I face it with full expectation that God is in total control. He's a gracious God. And to put myself in his loving, careful hands, that's the safest place I can be. I'd rather be in his will, in his hands, with stage 3 cancer than to be out of the will of God with no cancer. So,
are you in pain?
No, I'm not. There's sometimes I have discomfort, and it's frustrating because I don't eat like I normally did. I ate cafeteria food. I ate pizza with the players. I mean, I ate junk food to beat the band, and Diet Dr. Pepper was my thing. And so I'm off Diet Dr. Pepper. That's a tough thing. But there's discomfort because of the swallowing, but there's no pain.
Good. Well, we're thankful for that.
Yeah.
So we're going to be praying for you and getting updates along the way. But you're still planning on continuing to record your broadcast.
Yes, I am. Matter of fact, last week I was sitting there and I was reading, and I get up between 3 and 4 every morning and doing my reading, and I made 5 outlines. And I thought, wow, I got so many things to preach. I hope the Lord lets me live a little longer, because I've got my Bible. I've already got notes for what the next series I want to do, and right now I'm doing Hebrews 11 at the local church, and wow, I'm having so much fun studying that. So. As long as God gives me strength, and I've got great help. I've got a person who helps me with my PowerPoints. I've got Mark, my nephew, and he's really good at helping me pull up some news items that I need. I've got other people that scout for me. So God has given me gracious people to work with me, and so with that help, we're gonna just continue on, and the Lord will show us when it's time for us to exit.
Well, I know that our audience is, they love you, they care about you. I know that a lot of them are going to be praying for you. And we've already received a lot of emails and texts, people wanting to make sure we knew. And of course we did. We've been talking with you. So we're gonna just pray. And of course, I'm glad to hear that you ordered that phytoplankton that we take. And again, I'm not a doctor, but if I was in your situation, and I've heard Dr. Lana say if she was in this situation, she'd be doing about 5 scoops in the morning and 5 scoops at night, and see where that goes, along with whatever else you've chosen to go with. But we're just going to keep praying. Well,
great. Well, I appreciate prayer.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the Middle East?
Sure.
Tell me your thoughts on what you're hearing now. We have President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance has now said this in the last day or so. Here we go.
Jared Kushner actually came up with a very interesting solution with the Qataris, where basically, again, if there is any frozen Iranian assets that are unfrozen, then we have approval over that process. The Qataris have approval over that process. And then the money would actually go to buy American soy, American corn, and American wheat for the benefit of the Iranian people. And as much as I see some of the press misreporting on this, and of course, buttressed by what the Iranians are saying, or not all Iranians, I want to be clear, there are a lot of Iranians who are telling the truth about what happened yesterday, but you see some social media reporting that gets this wrong. But fundamentally, what Jared and the Qataris and the entire team here in Bergenstock accomplished is, to me, a classic Trump deal, where if Iranian assets are ever unfrozen, they're going to go to make American farmers richer and to feed the Iranian people. That's a very, very good and very classic Trump deal that's great for our people, great for the people of Iran, and fundamentally, again, will contribute to this regional security architecture that we've built and that we're going to work very hard to ensure that it endures.
So we looked up earlier today, Newsweek article related to Kushner. And again, we always want to be documented. And it was about Kushner and I guess Qatari money and his building 666 on Fifth Avenue. So when you start hearing about Jared making these decisions with Qatar and Iran, or Qatar, who's lined up in a lot of ways with Iran, excuse me if I don't think we have a conflict of interest here. What do you think?
Well, I'm always suspicious when I see people that are attracted by money. Money is like a magnet to Jared Kushner. And we know he's a world player. While he's Jewish, while he's related, at the same time, he always has a way to smell out a deal. And so we have him doing the Riviera in Gaza. That hasn't gone very far. It's kind of stalled in his corner. The 30-point process is stalled at point 3, where there's someone to come in and be neutral in that whole thing. So I look at this, and here's what I'm afraid. I think they have so many policies that are floating. This is an idea that's floating. This is not a policy. This is a floating idea. To me, it says that we don't really have a plan that's acceptable. Here's my concern. Yeah, it sounds good. We're going to get the farmers on our side. We're going to say, okay, we're going to make you rich. But the truth is, what was the point of the conflict to begin with? It was to eliminate nuclear weapons in Iran. We really haven't done that. They have not agreed on how to do the inspection. Number 2, to have a ceasefire so that people wouldn't be firing at each other. Well, the truth is, Iran continues to fire at Qatar and other places as well. But when Israel fires at Hezbollah, neither of which are part of this agreement, when Israel fires at Hezbollah because there's terrorists there, Iran says that's a break of the ceasefire. But it's fine for Iran to fire at our plane, our helicopter. So whenever there's a breach, they can overlook it and say, well, that was a mistake. They were well informed. That didn't represent us. Look, the truth is we got 60 days now. We've pushed this down the road, 45 days, 60 days. Here's what I'm convinced of. I'm convinced that a treaty is not going to come without the work of an antichrist, because too many people are trying to satisfy too many things. The Jews, they want the opportunity to worship on the Temple Mount. The Jews, they want it so that there's not Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations firing against them. Iran is just one of the terrorist organizations. But have you noticed that Israel is almost taken out of the peace negotiation? It's unbelievable. It began with Israel and the United States dealing with the enemy Iran. And now it's gone from that to a money situation, a European situation. I'm really disappointed, but I think it tells me this. There's not a clear path to a peace treaty. There's not a clear path to a ceasefire. And so the only way they can make a ceasefire, the only way they can make a treaty at all, is to say, okay, we're willing to accept anything and almost everything. And so let's make the world happy. Let's lower oil prices. Let's give some money to the farmers. I'm disappointed. I think if we would have stayed the course, said, here's our policy, here's what we demand, And when you break it, then we promise that we would fire on you. Do it. Don't hold back. Why are we holding back now? 40,000 Iranians died thinking that freedom might come. If we don't keep our word and hold them accountable, then 40,000 Iranians died without a purpose. Others, hundreds of others have died. So I really think that maybe the bluff has been called to the Trump administration. I think he wants to be known as a peace president. I think he wants oil prices to go down. I want oil prices to go down. I want peace. I have friends in Israel. They want peace. They want tourists back. They want relatives to be able to fly back and forth. We all want peace, but there's a price for peace. And we still have the villain. The villain is still ugly. The villain still hates Israel. The villain still hates the United States. And the villain is a liar. You can't trust a thing they say. So right now, what I would say is we're perfectly set up for what the Bible says will take place in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38 and 39. A peace treaty will have to become negotiated by someone who might be an antichrist. I think there's some candidates lurking in the wings to make this happen.
I said the other day, I think that President Trump is a forerunner for the Antichrist. He's really stirring things up in the Middle East. He's doing things that are creating and making the problem perhaps worse than it was even before he came into office for the second term. But I said, when you look at it from a prophetic standpoint, from a providential standpoint, God may be allowing Donald Trump to do this, step back and let Donald do what's in his heart, because Donald is laying the foundation in the confusion that will only be then solved by an Antichrist figure who comes on the scene and offers up a peace treaty.
Yeah, exactly. This problem is bigger than Donald Trump. There's not many problems in the world that Donald Trump thinks is bigger than him, but this might be one. And so it's going to take an Antichrist to solve it. And we see everything else helping to set up this Antichrist. Look at the technology, look at the artificial intelligence, look at all the things that are taking place governmentally to bring us into the chute so that the Antichrist can direct us completely. And so I think the stage is being set. And that's why I think the Lord may come at any time, because I'm confident of this. I believe that before the Antichrist ever begins his devilish work, the church is gone. The Antichrist is not revealed until chapter 6, verse 1 and 2 of Revelation. The church is gone in chapter 1 or chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. And so, the prelude for the Antichrist coming is right now. But the prelude, before the prelude of the Antichrist can even take place, the church has got to be gone. And so that's why every morning I wake up and I say, wow, this is probably going to be the day that the Lord comes, because he didn't come yesterday. And so I woke up this morning and after I read my verses, I said, wow, what an incredible day for Jesus to come, because everything is fulfilled just like the Bible said. And so I'm trying to learn how to wait patiently, and been studying Hebrews 11. And one of the things that really hit me was, here's Abraham. God told him to move from the land of Ur, and he moved. I think he lived in a good house. His father had a successful gods-making business and idol-making business, and Abraham moved, so he probably lived in a nice house. He moved at God's beckoning. God didn't tell him where he was going, didn't tell him how long he was going, didn't tell him where he would end up. He didn't know his zip code. I mean, and as best I can tell, from 75 years old until 99 years old, God had only spoken to him once or twice, and he followed God, faithfully followed God. And for 100 years, from 75 to 175, Abraham follows God, has faith in God, trusts God, and according to Romans 5, he had more faith at the end of his journey than he did at the beginning. He wasn't doubting God. He was trusting God even more. And I thought, Lord, help me to be that faithful, because I see these things taking place. I say, Lord, I want your coming. I can hardly wait to hear that trumpet sound. And And I can see God saying, look, Lindsted, be patient, run with patience. Don't, there's people being saved. I'm setting the stage. Come on, you can be patient. And I look at Noah, 120 years building an ark. It never rained, no floods. He's hundreds of miles from a lake that could sail a little boat, let alone a big boat. 120 years, he patiently waited for God. And so here I am, and I'm saying, Lord, wow, this would be, this would be a perfect day. President Trump wanted to make the announcement of a ceasefire, solid signed agreement at G7. He didn't get to do that. It spoiled his party. And, and he clearly said to G7, I'm the boss. He fully expected to have a treaty signed. It never happened. You see, God's timing is greater than any political figure we have on this earth. And sooner or later, the Antichrist will work his way into the position that he's going to be. 2 Thessalonians says that. There's going to be a time he's going to be revealed. But there's something that prohibits him. It's the grace of God. It's the church of God. It's the Spirit of God. There's going to be a time that God's going to remove that by removing the church. And now the Antichrist will have his moment to be revealed. And we'll find out, wow, there he is. He's been doing his devilish work all along, but he can't uproot the plan of God. And so that's why the best thing we can do is trust the plan of God. I'm so glad I'm pre-trib, because these poor people think they got to go through the tribulation. Wow, can you imagine saying, I got to live for 3.5 more years? I live day by day. And they've got to live day by plus 3.5 years. It's just horrible for them.
Indeed, it is. Well, you are such a blessing to us. You've been a blessing to us. The powerful ministry you have all over the world, missions work all over the world that you have going on now, schools you've set up all over the world, 70-something trips to Israel, your radio and TV ministry, the Christian school. You have some wonderful Christian young men. They're in the MBA that love the Lord, that are using that platform for God's glory and the advancement of the gospel and a biblical Christian worldview. You have, man, I'm going to stand at the Bema seat, and the rewards and the crowns are going to be overwhelming to God's glory, what God has done in the life of Rob Lindsted. We're going to ask our audience to pray for God's will to be done first and foremost. And of course, our desire is that you have 100% healing, because I need you on the air. We have a lot to talk about, and I don't have a person I can lean on with your breadth of knowledge. I've got some great guys, but man, you and I have been working together for 30 years. So we're going to pray for God's healing, that you are around and we both go up with the sound of the trumpet.
Yes. Well, yeah, it'd be fun if we could tie going to heaven. And Brendan, I got to say, when you call me and we get to just talk and visit about a passage or a situation, whether it's a Bible verse or it's an event in the world, it's so much fun because we both enjoy what God's doing. We both believe in the infallible Word of God. And so it's so much fun to have people like-minded that you can say, hey, what about this? And so I value that. And so I appreciate your calls and appreciate your friendship. You guys have been a great blessing to me.
Well, it's a two-way street, my friend. Now we're going to pray for your wife as well. How is she doing?
Yes,
How is she holding up with this news?
She has good moments, and but she faithfully follows the Lord. And so, yeah, she's strong, but from time to time she thinks, okay, how does this work out? One of the things is she says, what are we going to do with all the stuff we got going at the school? What are we going to do with all the stuff we got going in? We got land in Burma. We're trying to build there. We're trying to build a new building at the school. She said, I don't know about all. I said, you know what? You got to put that in the hands of God. And he'll do it. And Brandon, one of the things I truly believe, I think God rewards you for what you intend to do. Look at Abraham. Abraham intended to offer up Isaac, so God blessed him just like he offered up Isaac. So I said, Sharon, yeah, we didn't complete the work in Burma. We haven't completed the work here. We got a school in India that we'd like to build. And so God's going to reward us on what we intend to do. And so let's just trust him. He knows what he's doing. I may not know what I'm doing, but God knows what he's doing. And so we're learning to trust. So we want to grow in our faith. Yeah, we're old, but we're not too old to grow in our faith.
What a testimony. All right, now you keep us posted, and
okay,
we're going to keep calling on you to come on our broadcast as long as you feel that you can do that. We don't want to impose upon you, but our audience loves you and wants to keep hearing from you, as do I. We need you to keep appearing here, and we're going to look forward to your broadcast you keep pushing out. And again, we're going to be asking all of our audience to pray for Dr. Rob, his health, for God's will to be done. We know what we would like is 100% healing, but also pray for his wife, the school. I bet you've been witnessing to a lot of doctors and nurses, if I know Dr. Rob Lindsted.
Yeah, what an opportunity I have to talk to him about the Lord.
What do they say?
Well, they always they don't want to stifle anything that mention of God, but on the other hand, they may not share the conviction I have, and they're always a little bit surprised because it looks like, okay, do you really understand? I said, that this is not good. And matter of fact, before I was even conscious, after they did one of the things, the doctor came in and told my wife, this is cancer, it's not good. And I wouldn't even wake. And before I woke up, they were already rolling me down the hospital deal for another test. And when I came to, I said, what in the world are we doing? And they said, well, it didn't look good, so we're going to go. But you know what? They keep thinking, okay, is this going to discourage you? And my answer is no. I trust the hand of God. And I think he's got my days measured, and I'm not going to go to heaven one day before he wants me there. And I'm not going to go one day late. I'm going to be just on time. I'd love for it to be the rapture. I've always thought it would be thrilling to feel gravity turned off. And my wife is kind of afraid if I get there first. I'm big on lists. I make a list of things for people to do. She says, I know if you go there first, you're going to have a list for me. And I said, yeah, I probably will make a list. But
yeah. Well, I think we're all going to get to experience the gravity. I was reading a book when studying through the book of Revelation, and I think it was Henry Morris. I think it was Henry Morris talking about, God sending us out on an assignment, and then us coming back in and seeing the earth in view and focus as we're coming in, and he's talking about what we'll be able to do in these supernatural bodies we'll receive as we're going out and doing things on his behalf, on his orders, and then coming back in. And when you read that, I read that on the air, it's fascinating to think about what's going to happen. And so I think even if any of us go on to glory before the rapture, I think we're going to get to enjoy that lack of gravity. And that to me was fascinating to read that description by Henry Morris. What did the doctor say when he told you the diagnosis and your response? Did he say anything back to you? Like, was he shocked at your response?
Yeah, he says a positive attitude is healthy. And the fact that I said, I'm not giving up because I think my life is in the hands of God. And so he gets to choose it. It's not so much me choosing what treatment, it's he chooses the day. But I said, I want to live as long as I can, as long as I can bring honor and glory to God, I want to live. And so that's why I'm going to fight. And fight not to be stupid, but fight to say, you know what? Trials are given to us. This is a trial. Some people have a financial trial. Some people have a business trial, and I have a health trial. But see, circumstances happen to Christians as well as to unsaved. The difference is this: I had to go through this health trial, and I've got Christ as my Savior. I know where I'm going. The worst that can happen to me is the best thing that can happen to me. And so I can't worry about it. I'm not looking forward to having pain. I'm not looking forward to going through chemo and all that stuff. Yeah, there's some ugly things, but here's what I know: that I'm told that Christ is with me, and He's choosing. I want Him to choose the path. I don't want to choose it. I want Him to choose it. And so when the doctor sees that, wow, you're confident in your faith, he says, okay, that's a great attitude to have. And so he said, so we want to treat aggressive. I said, aggressive. And so, yeah,
Did
I hope,
he say anything like, you're responding in a way I've never had a patient respond?
no, he hadn't said that yet, but I'm hoping I have the opportunity to lead him to Christ.
Wow. Well, we'll pray for that too. You're a remarkable guy with a remarkable testimony. And you know, I hope I'm not speaking out of school. I think you told me once years and years ago, you came out of I think you worked for IBM, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And you have a degree in engineering and mathematics, right?
Yeah. Several degrees in engineering, mechanical, aerospace, and nuclear.
You're literally a rocket scientist, right? You really are, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
You're like Jason Pratt. You're a literal rocket scientist. Okay. So you came out of the business world, and I think you told me this almost 30 years ago, that you don't have a savings account.
No,
that you don't
I
save money. And you told me that 30 years ago. You said, I don't want to have money in the bank when the rapture happens.
Yeah. Well, I do. I have some money in the bank now, and I own some houses with the school. And that's when my wife's worry is how are you going to get rid of this stuff? Because she said, I don't understand how we're making these payments. And I said, well, I've got some secretaries that they can figure that out. But yeah, my family's concerned that I straighten some of this out because, you know, I was planning to leave all that for the Antichrist to figure out. And so, I mean, really, look, here's what I know. Eventually, I'm going to end up in heaven. And in heaven, I don't need money. Matter of fact, you know, here, no one wants to be a street sweeper. But up there, that'd be a pretty good job because you get to keep the dust that you stir up, you know. So I may try to send some
from the gold
back.
streets, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest. I started thinking about, I could be seeing streets of gold. You know, when he tells me, you know, 2 weeks, couple months before Christmas, I think, wow, I may celebrate Christmas in heaven. I'm going to see the streets of gold. I'm going to see the throne of God. Oh my goodness. It's hard to get your mind back on the earth when you begin thinking about heaven.
Wow. I could talk for hours. Thank you for your time, for your testimony, and for coming tonight to share this with our audience.
My pleasure. God bless you all.
Dr. Rob Lindsted, thank you, sir. BibleTipNow.org, BibleTipNow.org. We'll be keeping you posted, and I know you'll be praying for Dr. Rob and his wife, as will I. We'll be right back.
For over 35 years, Brannon Howse has helped Christians understand the times. Now everything he's built lives in one place, the Worldview Tube Vault. Step inside and you'll find thousands of hours of exclusive programming on the Bible, culture, and the worldview issues shaping our world. Ebooks, audiobooks, documentaries, and decades of teaching, all in one searchable library. There's a brand new courses feature, led by our first release, the Book of Revelation, taught verse by Brannon Howse. Grave Influence and more courses are on the way. Read Brannon's books, Marxianity, Grave Influence, Religious Trojan Horse, Put Your Beliefs to the Test, and his upcoming Revelation commentary, every title also available as an audiobook. Plus all his documentaries, Siege, Sabotage, and Brainwashed America, with Part 3 coming soon. Vault members can also stream the 2026 Worldview Weekend Conference, plus presentations from past Ozarks conferences. And coming soon, our new Bible and Worldview software, answering your questions from a trusted quarantine database of sound teachers and scholars. Join today at worldviewtube.com/vault. Plans start at just $7.99 a month.
Join me now is Patrick Wood. Look at this headline. Iran. The goal was always economic reintegration, not containment. I mentioned this article on radio today at 1 o'clock Central Radio and TV with Aaron. I said, think about Gaddafi. Gaddafi kind of changed his behavior after Ronald Reagan, I think, put a missile down one of his tents or something. But Gaddafi was looking to switch over to gold and try to get a lot of the African nations to go along with gold and dump the dollar, world reserve currency, the petrodollar. Then Saddam Hussein was talking about that. Those two guys, neither one of them stayed around very long. Now you got Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Iran's joining in with BRICS. One has to wonder if this isn't about trying to get Iran on the same page with the New World Order. And maybe to become partners with them, with IMEC. And now we find out that Iran's got their own little deal they're building, very similar to IMEC or the Belt and Road Initiative or the Al-Fal port in Iraq. So maybe this is about economic reintegration, not containment. Let's ask about that with our guest, Patrick Wood. Patrick, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tell me about this article and what do you think? I mean, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, is this are they trying to get Iran to come to the table and behave and play along with the New World Order?
It may be a little bit more complicated than that, but that's a good possibility. They're not saying gold, but maybe black gold. I don't know. But the deal that's been worked out is not like a conquering type of a deal. Mm-hmm. They don't expect at this point that Iran will surrender anything. And in fact, they've given them everything at this point. They've reversed field, and all the sanctions are going to be wiped out. This is the intention. That means all the money that has been held in their name for all these years, since 1979, by the way, will be given back to them. And this is in addition to the $300 billion private fund that's been being set up. And they say there's already half that money is already in escrow somewhere. I don't know where, but they're saying this is a private fund that's being set up to develop Iran into a global power, if you will. And this is not what you do when you conquer somebody. This is almost reminiscent of China when it came into the world stage in 1976, when Henry Kissinger and Zbigniew Brzezinski brought Chairman Deng to the United States, wined him, dined him, taught him about technocracy. He went home and built a world-class superpower. So, there was a nation that was flat on its back, almost like Iran is now. And we see they were conquered not by a military, but by economic development. This is what's in play right now. When Jared Kushner went to Iran with Steve Witkoff, he wasn't even, and he had nothing to do with the government of the United States. This is absolutely incredible to me that a civilian piker, if you will, he's not a piker, but you get my point. This guy has no business being in the middle of this deal at all. He's just the president's son-in-law, and that's all. He has no salary, has no position, not even a cursory title, but nevertheless, he's been the main architect of this deal with Iran. And you can see his strategy, as I think is very clear when you consider the Abraham Accords that he built during the first administration. And you can see his strategy now is to offer them a carrot to be integrated into the global system. Now, maybe they'll go screaming and shouting. I don't know. But at this point, the door is open for this. And so people now are saying, well, Israel is being dissed, condemned by almost everybody in the world, it seems like at this point. including Vice President Vance. You know, what's going on with that as well. But people's eyes are not on the ball. The bouncing ball, it speaks of economic reintegration. That's a term, that's a phrase, by the way. That's a statecraft term. Basically, when you want to take a country that has been excluded from the world economy, the world system, and you want to reintegrate them into that system. This is what's going on right now, in my opinion.
All right. So what do you think is going to happen? How do you think it's going to end?
Who knows? At this point, obviously, the details need to be fleshed out. They have 60 days to do it. I'm sure something will come out of it, as long as nobody pushes the nuclear the button, I guess. But my guess is that Witkoff and Kushner are very serious about bringing Iran out from the cold into the fold. And I think we're going to see this happen eventually. What this opens up for us, by the way, when we talk about the IMEC corridor, we talked about that extensively before, just in recent weeks. But now, all of a sudden, there's other possibilities to establish a trade corridor, perhaps in Iran itself, perhaps to Iraq and the Al-Faw port, perhaps through Damascus, and including Turkey and the deal. Just think of the possibilities for global trade at this point. This opens a huge opportunity for the global traders. Okay, that would be the Kushners and the Trumps and the Witkoff family as well.
Robert Spencer, we talked about it over at worldviewreport.com in the news report tonight. Robert Spencer has been a huge supporter of Donald Trump. So he's not a never Trumper. He was never a never Trumper. Mm-hmm. But he has an article out at Front Page Mag, Trump could have been a contender. That's the title of the article. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about the fact that he's so disappointed to see what Trump has done. But I just talked to Rob Lindsted. I don't know if you heard much of it. I think in many ways, Donald Trump is the forerunner to the Antichrist. He is creating so much confusion and mess over there. And now his comments about Benjamin Netanyahu and, you know, do we have the clip, Logan, where he called Benjamin Netanyahu, we got to keep him sane? Is that what he said? Look for it, please. We'll play it. Mm-hmm. All these other comments, you know, J.D. Vance coming out and talking about Israel and claiming that Israel, you know, you can't solve all your problems by killing everybody. You know, this is really, I think, in my opinion, dangerous talk. Some of this is borderlining on language that we heard from, you know, other people that were more, you know, in the anti-Semitic crowd, I think. But we cannot we can speak truth, but we have to be careful not to vilify the nation state of Israel when they have the right to defend themselves. In fact, I have a quote, you know, I don't agree with Newt Gingrich on everything. I've criticized Newt Gingrich in one of my books for some of his promotions of the Tofflers and whatnot. But Newt Gingrich put out there on social media, you know, what's the deal? I mean, Israel has a right to defend itself, for Pete's sake. You know, we don't need to offer up Israel just so President Trump can get a peace deal and go down in history. So I don't know what this is all about, but it's very disturbing. Watch and listen to this kind of language. I don't like it. Watch.
If it weren't for Donald Trump, Israel would have been eviscerated. If it weren't for Donald Trump, and Bibi Netanyahu worked well with me, but he will tell you, we're the ones with the guns, we're the ones with the whole deal, we're the ones with the B-2 bombers, etc. If it weren't for Donald Trump, Israel would have been eviscerated.
Your relationship with Netanyahu's...
It's good, but we have to keep him a little bit sane.
Are you going to be able to control Israel from attacking Lebanon.
Yeah, I will be. I mean, I wonder. They have a lot of respect for me, and they do as I say.
So we got to keep Benjamin Netanyahu sane. I don't like some of this language at all.
I don't either.
And it's coming from JD as well. Let me give you one more to add to that response you're about to give. Because here was JD. Listen to this, Mr. Eyeliner, I think.
But yeah, you've seen people in their system, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, who've attacked the deal. And I guess my response to them would be, what is your exact proposal? And, you're a country of 9 million people. You can't just kill your way out of solving every single national security problem that you have.
As if that's all they're doing. They're just killing their way out of their problems. They're defending themselves. They just found a tunnel over in Lebanon, 5 miles from their border. There was a big old long tunnel, and we've shown the footage. Maybe we can show the footage again. In fact, here is the footage. The footage is showing all of these rockets down there, and this is what's going on. And by the way, the people died. I think there was 50 Hezbollah, Iran fighters. Big deal. I'm sorry. 50. That's killing your way out. Like they're killing innocent people. Yeah, there are innocent people that get killed in war. That's sad, collateral damage. But you know what? Killing 50 Hezbollah terrorists that were doing this, that's not killing your way out of something. That's called protecting your country, JD. Patrick, look at these pictures.
Well, just remember, every time something happens that they don't want you to look at, like just what happened in Iran, the focus all of a sudden shifts to Israel. Israel's not the story here. The Iran is the story, in my opinion, because what they're trying to achieve now is certainly a fast one on the American people, but this is a deal that we've never seen in the history of our world. This is almost like President Trump declaring himself to be the head for the chairman for life on the peace board, that wants to take over Gaza. This has never happened in our history as well. They don't want you to look at Jared Kushner or what Steve Witkoff has done with Iran. They're reintegrating this country into the world stage. And yes, they're apparently they're willing to throw Israel under the bus. That's pretty obvious at this point. But Israel is not the main story at this point. I think the main story is still in Iran.
Well, I agree with that. And we're going to have Annie on about that. But I'll tell you, if they keep talking this way, everyone in this audience, a lot of, I would say pretty much everybody in this audience has been prepping, like I have, my family have, for the threat to our power grid, the domestic terrorists, foreign terrorists that are here. We just saw in Florida where a boat was shot at by our government, rightfully so, and supposedly somebody they weren't stopping. And I guess our Coast Guard was trying to stop them. And they were bringing in, I think it was about, let me see, Control F. I think they were bringing in like 25 Chinese people. Why is China bringing in all these illegals into the country? And why do they need to bring them in and smuggle them in? And that was being reported. I'll find the article. Plus the 100,000 that are supposedly already here, according to Gordon Chang and others. Then you had IRGC guy, reportedly, he had direct ties, this guy does, to the IRGC, and he tries coming in to the World Cup soccer team as their president. So, I mean, what is going on here? I think Gordon Chang is right. The battlefield is being prepared, and there's going to be a battle. The next war might be very well fought on our soil. And I'm afraid what's going to be the tipping point as this audience prepares for a lot of this is going to be how we're treating Israel. Joel chapter 3, verse 2, God's angry because he says, you've divided my land. In Genesis 12, verse 3, the way the country is behaving now is inviting God's judgment. Patrick, do you agree?
I do, and I'm reminded. I know you talked to Courtney Turner about this as well. There's been a surge. I mean, an outright surge, a tsunami of anti-Semitism sweeping the country right now. This is a satanic type of a phenomena. You can't infect that many people all at once if there wasn't type of a satanic influence on it. But everywhere you look now, people are talking about Israel in a negative tone, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Even formerly totally straight, not anti-Semitic at all, commentators on radio and TV, bloggers, podcasters, etc. They're all going over the dark side at this point. This is very disturbing. What this means for Christians at this point who buck that trend, it'll close in on us. In other words, we'll be the scapegoat at that point, where the persecution for us will start. And until that time happens, however, we can be happy with our freedoms, I guess. But you can see the mood shifting all around America. And unfortunately, the president and the vice president are leading the charge at this point.
I got an article I want to talk about here. Let me bring it up. There it is. There's the article. Coast Guard opens fire on boat smuggling 25 Chinese nationals near Florida after it refused to stop. June 17th, 2026. What's going on there, right, folks? So a lot of these people are here. They're ready to do something. And a lot of us have been preparing for some kind of problem to possibly occur. We want to be ready. But what may end up occurring may be God's judgment through some of these groups that are already here. That's something we should definitely put on the radar. Now, let me go to another article. And this is about something I discussed tonight on the Worldview Report. And it's an article from the Revolver, which tends to, publish conservative-leaning columns. Trump's ready to reopen mental institutions and liberals are furious. Okay. I did a whole commentary on it tonight because I think this is dangerous. In a climate where conservatives, Christians, moms that go to school board meetings, we're all being defined as potential domestic terrorist, Islamophobic, deranged, men who are too masculine. That's toxic masculinity. I think I got a piece from the American Psychological Association saying that's some kind of psychological disorder. And now we have the Trump administration wanting to do this and clean up the streets, get rid of the homeless camps, deal with these people. And I understand the desire to do that, but there are already laws on the books to deal with this stuff. What we don't need to do is empower the government to throw people in mental institutions involuntarily. And you may say, well, I don't have a problem with it under Trump. Let me ask you this. Do you have a problem with it if the next president is Gavin Newsom or Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton or AOC? So look out, folks. President Trump is laying a lot of potential problems for us going into the future. And I hate to keep saying this because I don't want to be saying these things. I want President Trump to be successful for our country. But I'm very concerned, Patrick. This is a perfect example I'm talking about. And I think it fits with this rise of anti-Semitism that some of us Christians may very well be labeled because we stand for Bible prophecy and the Bible.
I think so. I'm reminded that there was a young girl in the Northeast that was forbidden by a judge for going to church and studying her Bible and being involved with Bible studies. What's this all about?
Matt Staver's handling that case, and he was on last week talking about it. So you're 100% right.
Yeah. You can see the sentiment is building against Bible-believing Christians. You would think that would be the case. And just intuitively, you would think, well, the devil is going to take care of the remnant. That's the people who are saying, no, 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 no. And the rest of the world is saying, yes, 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 yes. And, that it makes logical sense to me that the devil was going to come after us at some point. And I think this is the time right now. And maybe not. I hope, I don't want it for sure, but you can see the building a sentiment against Christians, Bible-believing Christians who are concerned about Bible prophecy and who still stand with Israel. And I tell people, it doesn't matter at this point what Israel does. It really doesn't. Because the only issue that a Christian needs to ask himself, are you willing to stick your finger into God's eye, who clearly said in the Old Testament that Israel is the apple of his eye? Are you willing to take that risk of sticking your finger in God's eye? I can't imagine doing that myself, but a lot of people should think about this, because this is where it's at. It's none of your business at this point. It really doesn't concern you what Israel does or doesn't do. They're in God's hands, not in our hands.
Let's go to this article before we let you go at technocracy.news. AI rebels, Americans turning against AI in incredible numbers. It's like 85% of the American people or something against these data centers, right, Patrick?
That's one aspect for sure. But in this case, we're talking about people who were being forced to use AI in their employment. The boss said, you have to do this way. And these are the people that are really rebelling against AI. They said it's just absolutely killing them. It's overworking them. It's driving them crazy to distraction. And so there's a lot of negative sentiment going on there. And when we talk we talk about, well, how many people across America? You might remember all of the speeches given at universities around the country, like Eric Schmidt gave one at University of Arizona. And he started talking about AI to the students, right? This is the senior class. They started booing him. And he looked so shocked. What are you guys doing? We're talking about AI here. And they just kept on booing him. This was the response from young people. They don't want AI at all. So you have to ask the question now, is AI, does it have the ability to collapse on itself because there's no demand, or just outright rebellion against it? Well, I'd like to answer that question. I don't know at this point, but I sure like to see that kind of a sentiment setting in to scare these AI oligarchs to death.
It's all at technocracy.news, technocracy.news. Patrick, as always, thank you for coming on and keeping us aware of what's happening.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Patrick Wood checking in tonight, folks. Technocracy.news. All right. Again, do you appreciate all we're doing here? We need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com. Worldviewfoundation.com. We have to have your support, folks, to keep pushing out programming like this 24/7. And again, don't forget about the Revelation book. Boy, there's a lot of orders coming in for that. Go over to worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. It's a 2-volume set, folks. It is over 2,000 pages, over 2,100 pages. And it went to page layout today. It is now out of my hands. We have edited, Jill and I, and footnotes and appendix and glossary and terms at the back of the book. It's quite the resource. I'm very proud of the work that's gone into this 2-year project, a year and a half teaching, and about 6 months now in putting it together in this commentary set. For lay people, basically think Bible commentary meets Tom Clancy, because that's how it reads by design. The Bible in one hand and the news in the other, like looking at IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, the Belt and Road Initiative, the fall port being rebuilt or being built in Iraq, all that's going on with Israel, What's going on with Turkey? Turkey talking about, taking Jerusalem. Now we have Turkey allowing Hamas to operate in Turkey. Of course, we see Turkey mentioned, 3 times related to Gog, Magog. All of this is in this book. All of this is laid out in this book, and so much to help you understand in layman terms. Someone said to me the other day, I want to study that book. I really do, but I don't think I could understand it. I don't think I could. I said, wrong. You can. You have to get a hold of my Bible commentary. It will help you to understand it. So to those of you who say, I've always wanted to study the book of Revelation, but I don't think I can understand it. Well, now you can, because I deliberately wrote these books, these 2 books, 2,100 pages for lay people. And I deliberately brought in so much news and information, documented and footnoted, not conspiracy, footnoted and documented stories in the mainstream press and the international press to show you what's happening and the stage setting for these things to come to pass. So I hope you'll get a copy, get both books. They come together. You can't buy them separately. We're ahead of schedule. They'll be shipping this fall, and we're ahead of schedule. So please, order now. Get a copy for your pastor. While it's written for lay people, pastors will love it too. It's a great evangelistic tool. Buy it for your unsafe friend or neighbor that has an interest in world events. Maybe he has an interest in Israel and what's happening in the Middle East, but they don't know the Lord. They don't really know the Bible much. Maybe they've been asking you questions. This would make a great gift. This would make an awesome Christmas gift. This is not an inexpensive, thrown together commentary set. We've spent a lot of money. Just the editing and the page layout is thousands of dollars. And then the printing. We've not gone cheap. We could have gone real cheap, paperback, and said, here you go. No, we've spent money making it look leather, like a leather-bound leather book with this gold print. That's not inexpensive, but we wanted to do that so it'd be something you'd be pleased to display in your library, in your office, in your built-ins, in your living room or your coffee table. So this is a book that's designed to be class act, classy, something you could hand down from generation to generation, should we be here much longer, but just something, again, that makes a great gift. It's a high-end gift, no doubt about it, with incredible eternal content between the covers. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. We'll be right back.
The storm hits, the power's out, the stores are empty, grocery shelves cleared in hours. And now you're staring into an empty pantry, wondering how you're going to feed your family. It doesn't have to be that way. Worldview Store offers premium emergency freeze-dried food, real meals packed with nutrition, ready when you need them most. Hearty breakfasts, savory dinners, hot, satisfying food for your whole family. With a shelf life of up to 25 years, you store it once and forget about it until the day you need it. Just add water. In minutes, you've got a hot, delicious meal. No refrigeration, no fuss, no panic. Hurricanes, blackouts, job loss, supply shortages, whatever comes, you'll be ready. Don't wait for the next emergency to wish you'd prepared. Visit worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com, or call 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652.
Join me now as a first-time guest. He has been a listener and a viewer of our broadcast for many, many years. In fact, I put his email address into our search engine last night to see how far back, because he sent me a really interesting analysis of what he thinks may be going on here related to Israel and the Middle East. I thought, this guy's really bright. Who is this guy? And I thought, has he emailed us before? And I put his email in, and man, he's been following us for a long time. A lot of emails popped up in our archives. And I said, well, would you be willing to come on our broadcast? And he said, yes, he would. And so he joins us now, longtime listener, first-time guest, Ari Goldberg. Ari, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself. I mean, I just, delved into who you were a little bit last night, but our audience wants to know before we get into your analysis on the Middle East.
Okay. I'm a Jewish. I was grew up in an atheist Jewish family in Silicon Valley, so completely atheist environment from from everything, relatives, family, school, everything. And so I was kind of most of my friends and family leaned left of center, so that was me too. And in college, an economics professor recommended that we get exposed to other schools of thought besides Keynesianism and Marxism that they were teaching at Cal Berkeley. He recommended Friedrich Hayek.
Going to Berkeley? You're going to Berkeley?
Yeah, I went to Berkeley. And
what year was this, can I ask? 70s?
This was in 72 to 78. Yeah. And so the econ professor recommended a couple of free market economists, and that just clicked to me. I completely changed my worldview. I was totally pro-Constitution, pro-American, pro-free market, just in the Republican form of government that our country is based on made so much sense to me. And then in the workplace, people started giving me literature from Jesus to the Communist World and all about the captive nations in the Soviet Union. And I began to really hate communism and really see that there was this battle between good and evil, the Christian capitalist free market freedom-loving West versus communist socialist tyranny, Nazi tyranny. And then I stumbled into a John Birch Society bookstore, and the lady there said, "Oh, what's your name?" "Ari Goldberg." "Oh, you're Jewish. You ought to believe in Jesus. He's the Jewish Messiah." So I just filed that away for the time being. And as I was reading the articles, I was so impressed with their writing. Many of them were really solid Christians. They wrote about a world government conspiracy, which I now know to be the leading toward the kingdom of the Antichrist before the Lord Jesus comes back. And so I began to be very interested in learning more about it. And so I joined the John Birch Society and just started learning a lot and collecting a lot of
You went from Berkeley far left to John Birch on the right. You had a total transformation.
Yeah, total. And so much so, when I've told my father that I was a Christian, he called me a traitor. He said I was a traitor to my Jewish people. So it was a very serious thing.
So did you lose
but fortunately,
relationships with lots of family members?
No, he didn't break off any relationships.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
so that was good.
Yeah. And did you go on to become an engineer, or what did you do for a living?
Yeah, I did. I was a mechanical engineer in the electric power and the medical device manufacturing space. And so I also play music as a hobby.
Have you been to Israel?
Yeah, I've been several times. I have family there, and I spent quite a bit of time there after high school, and then periodically every few years since then.
How did you find us?
I found out about Dr. Stan Monteith in Radio Liberty, and he had John Loeffler as a guest. I started listening to John Loeffler, and he had this roundtable panel discussion with you and John and Dr. Stan, and you did a lot of the talking, and I was impressed. I was impressed with your knowledge, and so I started following you and bought your book, Grave Influence, which is fantastic. Really recommend people read that one. And I haven't read all of them, unfortunately. I gotta do that. But anyway, so so anyway, I'm a solid Christian. So I'm kind of trying to juggle a lot of different things, like being a good Christian, learning more about theology and discipleship, getting plugged into my church, playing music, being a worship leader for small groups and Bible studies, and following the news. And I really have a passion to connect current events with Bible prophecy, so I can point people to the reality of the Bible and how Jesus is coming back, and there's so many signs of the times all around us that are pointing that way. So I think the main thing I want people to know about Israel is that, and current events in general, is that politicians don't decide, they don't formulate current events. There's a powerful elite behind the scenes. They're very wealthy. A lot of them are into the occult. They are in secret societies, and they have a lot of their their cult people deep into the occult, like Albert Pike and Helena Blavatsky and Manly P. Hall and Barbara Marx Hubbard. They have channeled a plan.
And Alice Bailey and so many of these people, right?
Exactly. They have channeled a plan from Lucifer for a new world order, a totally humanistic society to rebuild the Tower of Babel. And that's what's really driving world events. And
do you think that Kabbalism, kind of this New Age meets Judaism, Kabbalism, do you think that is going to play a role in the maybe some of what we have? I mean, wasn't Logan? Look it up. Wasn't Madonna into that? Aren't a lot of the Hollywood folks into Kabbalism? Kind of a mixture of New Age and Judaism mixed together. Do you think that's how much? And of course, we know there are New Age Jews in Israel. How much of that do you think is going to allow for this syncretism from the Freemasons, the Jesuits, the New Agers, some New Age Jews, to pantheism, Hinduism? I mean, this is really going to allow the world's religions to converge, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. Kabbalah is a very powerful occult movement that's kind of on the level of Freemasonry and Theosophy and many other ones. So Jews have been kind of leaders, but they're not. I want to stress the fact that they are not the origin of the New World Order, this drive for world government, like many people on the woke right and so far right believe, because this is really started with the Tower of Babel and Nimrod. It pre-existed Abraham. It pre-existed Judaism. But when the Jews went into exile in Babylonia, they were exposed to these Babylonian mystery religions that had been there since the days of Nimrod. And so they developed their own spin on it. And so they developed Kabbalah, and that became part of the movement that the occult movements that are building the New World Order. So Jews and Gentile, they both have people involved in this New World Order movement, and they partner together to bring it about.
I think I just found an article here. People Magazine, here's what she said. During the conversation, the superstar and podcast host Jay Shetty had an open conversation about Madonna's decade-long spiritual journey, which began shortly before the birth of her first child. While reflecting on topics including forgiveness, success, how studying spirituality shaped her life, you need to be spiritual to be successful. Success is having a spiritual life, period. She says, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have one. Madonna, who first discovered Kabbalah in 1996. I'll make sure that's what it said. All these pop-up ads coming up. 1996 tells this to this host in the episode. Yeah, this is very popular, but I agree with you. The mother-son cult carried all around the world. Genesis 10 and 11. We see it reemerging in Revelation 17 and 18 for the mother of harlots. Well, with all, that is a little bit of our background, and hopefully we can visit with you more regularly now that we've become friends. But tell me what you think is going on with Israel and Iran and the power elite. What are they doing? Because I just interviewed Patrick Wood, and he has this article out. Iran, the goal was always economic reintegration. Excuse me. The goal was always economic reintegration, not containment. So that's interesting that he sent me that yesterday when you sent me several bullet points. I think you guys might almost be on the same page without even knowing each other.
Well, there definitely is a concept, a program that the globalists have for the New World Order to have these regional economic trading blocs merging together and forming political unions like the European Union or the North American Union and so forth. And it could very well be, it certainly seems that there is a Middle East trade area. There are similar blocks being formed in the Middle East. Now, I'm not an expert on that. What the main thing that I've been focusing on is the fact that the Freemasons, who are probably the most important group of the occult that are driving and shaping the New World Order, they have always wanted to rebuild Solomon's temple, and they want the Jews to do that. They want the Jews to partner with them. And this has actually been written up in the New York Times. I can do screen share with you anytime you're interested, perhaps when we have some more time, and we can go through it in detail. But they met with the Jews and planned to form a lodge for the purpose of planning to rebuild Solomon's temple. And but the key thing is they wanted to control Israel so that Israel would not be an independent state in charge of their own destiny, because then it would be 100% Jewish. The Freemasons wanted to control it, and I believe the way that they figured out how to do this is to be in favor of the establishment of a Jewish national home, but not a Jewish government. And we know that Alfred Lord Milner was really the chairman of he was like the David Rockefeller of the British foreign policy establishment. He was the head of the establishment. He was the one charged by Cecil Rhodes with carrying out his vision to basically bring the whole world under the rule of the British Empire. And Rhodes wanted to recover the United States back into the fold of the UK. He wanted to control the Holy Land and the Euphrates River, and that's what they've set out to do. And what they've done is, did you know that? I'm sure you know from the Balfour Declaration that it says we are in favor of establishing a Jewish national home. Right?
Yes.
But has anyone ever defined that for you?
No.
And we know what it is because Arnold J. Toynbee was the British establishment historian right at that time. He was the director of research for the Chatham House, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which was tied in with that whole Milner Group and the UK foreign policy establishment. And he wrote in his illustrated history of the world that a Jewish national home means Jewish population without Jewish rule. And Lord Milner made a speech before the House of the Lords in 1923, just a year after the British Mandate of Palestine was approved by the League of Nations, saying, and I'd like to quote it to you. He says, and this is from the House of Lords website, so this is not made up or hearsay. I was a party to the Balfour Declaration. In fact, we know from Professor Carol Quigley, who examined all the secret papers and records of the Milner Group, that Milner was the actual final draftsman of the Balfour Declaration. But here he's just saying he was a party to it, right? And then he goes on to say, my firm conviction is that you cannot have either an Arab government in Palestine or a Jewish government in Palestine, but that you must have in that country some neutral power which will keep the balance between the different races. He used the word races for Jews and Arabs. And which, without allowing any injury to be inflicted on the Arabs, will allow the Jews to also settle in the vacant spaces of their ancient home as long as they are willing to provide, the means of developing those districts and enabling them to support an adequate new incoming population. So he saw that the Arabs and the Jews were fighting each other. The Arabs didn't want a Jewish state. And so rather than being in favor of establishing a Jewish state that could just be independent and defend itself and so forth, he envisioned a neutral power. He used that word with a capital P to kind of keep the peace, keep the balance between the different races. So he always wanted the Jewish state to be dependent on the Anglo-American establishment, and that way he could control it and make sure that they would build the temple for the Freemasons. See,
I want to even show you, I was researching this while you were talking. Here is the website of the Grand Lodge of Ohio, King Solomon's Temple and Freemasonry, a framework for self-improvement. Okay, April 4th, 2023. They go all into it. I think I found that piece on the New York Times that you were talking about as well, but you got to be behind their paywall to see it.
Yeah,
I'll show.
Actually, if you check your email,
right there,
just a few minutes before we got on, I sent you an email. That's right. That's it. Yeah, that's it. I have I accessed that and got the whole article and so forth. And
what's interesting is I have some of this in my book, The Coming Religious Reich. You'll find, you already know about this. You've already made reference to it, I think. I said, Cecil Rhodes grasped the connection with the Roman Catholic Church, and this is how he conceived his answer for world peace. Quote, the key of my idea discussed with you is a society copied from the Jesuits as to organization, an idea which will ultimately lead to the cessation of all wars and one language throughout the world. The only thing feasible to carry this idea out is a secret one, gradually absorbing the wealth of the world to be devoted to such an object. Fancy the charm to young America to share in a scheme to take government of the world, to take the government of the world, end quote. I write, one language, question mark. Headquarters building that looks like the Tower of Babel, question mark. A coincidence, comma. I think I'm talking about the European Union and the headquarters there over in Europe.
In Strasbourg, France.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And then, of course, you have the book by Carol Quigley, The Anglo-American Establishment.
Mm-hmm.
Carol Quigley recognized Cecil Rhodes' intentions and quoted Rhodes' vision, quote, the extension of British rule throughout the world, the perfecting of a system of imagination from the United Kingdom and of a colonization of British subjects, all lands, wherein the means of livelihood are attainable by energy, labor, and enterprise, the ultimate recovery of the United States of America as an integral part of a British empire, the consolidation of the whole empire, the inauguration of a system of colonial representation in the imperial parliament, which may tend to weld together, I should say, the disjointed members of the empire. And finally, the foundation so great of power as to hereafter render wars impossible and promote the best interest of humanity. And what's also interesting, as you know, John Ruskin, who influenced Cecil Rhodes, John Ruskin, before Hitler even came about, John Ruskin has a swastika, which is a Hindu occultic symbol. He has a swastika on his tomb. And of course, John Ruskin taught Cecil Rhodes, along with Sidney Webb of Sidney Webb of the Fabian Society, that gave birth to the Labor Party.
Right, and Rudyard Kipling, in one or more of his books, used that same swastika symbol. And so they chose. Ben Gurion is also a globalist. In 1962, they did They polled a bunch of people to say, what do you think the world's going to be like in 25 years from now? And he says, gradual democratization of the Soviet Union. So in other words, they're going to move closer to the middle, right? Thesis, antithesis,
yes,
synthesis, right? They're going to lose the communist totalitarianism and add elements of free market, capitalism, like fascism, like China has been doing. And then in the U.S., he says the U.S. will become more like a welfare state with a planned economy. This is 1962. Western and Eastern Europe will become a federation of autonomous states having a socialist and democratic regime. He says all other continents will become united in a world alliance at whose disposal will be an international police force. All armies will be abolished and there will be no more wars. In Jerusalem, the United Nations will build a shrine of the prophets to serve the federated union of all continents. This will be the seat of the Supreme Court of mankind to settle all controversies among the federated continents as prophesied by Isaiah.
So they're pushing for basically, like we have, is it in Dubai, where you have the Catholic Church, the Jewish synagogue, and the Muslim temple, the three houses, if you will. They're kind of pushing for that in Jerusalem, right?
Yeah, I believe the Freemasonry is a very ecumenical movement. They're trying to unite all religions and say they're kind of all the same, except you can't say Christ is God. I guess that's the one exception, right? But so if you may recall, the Pope, John Paul something or other, in the mid-'80s, he invited people from all religions, shamans and Hindus and Muslims to celebrate their religions and kind of look forward to kind of uniting them all.
They were wearing their occultic garb, black magic, all of this stuff. John Paul II did all that. We have the pictures. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and so Israel has actually granted sovereignty of the holy sites in Jerusalem to the Vatican. That's been publicized in the newspaper.
Yes, it has.
Israeli reporters Joel Boehnerman and Barry Chamish have written documenting that and quoting the newspaper articles that reported on that.
Which is why we were watching to see if Cardinal Pizzaballa was going to end up being the Pope, because he's the cardinal over Israel. And we thought it was Pizzaballa. Is he going to end up being the Pope? And then they went with Pope Leo.
So I believe that the temple, see, the Freemasons are kind of tricking the Orthodox Jews into thinking they want to finance and help the Jews rebuild a Jewish temple. But I don't know. I kind of think they're going to co-opt it and make it kind of an ecumenical headquarters of the New World religion that they want to build. Carl Teichrieb talks a lot about that, uniting all the religions of the world.
And he's
together.
coming on my show next week. I think tomorrow or next week. So I want to bring that up with him. I'm glad to know you know Carl too.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going on with Israel? What do you think all of this October 7th and what's going on now and Trump and J.D. Vance kind of bullying Israel and Mark Levin's out saying, stop bullying Israel. What do you think is going on here from your research? I want to remind our audience, Ari is a Messianic Jew. I want to remind our audience that's one reason why his worldview and perspective on this is so intriguing to me. But go ahead, Ari.
Yeah.
Ari.
No problem. A lot of people do that. But I want to just set the stage just a little bit, if I might, and see, remember the partition plans, the 1937 Peel Commission plan and the 1947 UN partition plan. See, in order to make the Israel dependent and always dependent on the West for arms and security, and to let the West, the globalists, control Israel, they wanted to carve Israel up into a small little patchwork of lands that they lived on to make it impossible to defend. They never wanted Israel to have from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, including all surrounding Jerusalem, because then they would be able to defend themselves. And so that's what the Peel Commission partition plan was all about. Gave the Jews 20% and the Arabs 70%. And then the UN partition plan was 55% for the Jews and 45% for the Arabs. And the Arabs said no to both plans, and then Britain pulled out of administering the mandate, and Israel declared independence. And by international law, by uti possidetis juris, and this has been written up in the Arizona Law Review by a couple of international law experts, Israel inherited the whole boundaries of the mandate from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. It never. Most Israelis, most people don't even know that. They think Israel's original boundaries were based on the UN partition plan, but the UN partition plan never took effect under international law because the UN General Assembly doesn't have any legislative powers. The only way a resolution from the assembly can become law is if both parties agree to it and sign it, but they didn't. Only the Security Council can make international law. So really the UN partition plan is just a footnote of history. It never got implemented. But this freaked out. My opinion is that this was alarming to the globalists because they were losing control of Israel. If Israel had control of the whole mandate, including Jerusalem, they could just tell the globalists to go fly a kite. We'll build our own temple, right? And so Jordan, all the Arab countries invaded Israel right away. And when Jordan annexed the West Bank and took control of Jerusalem, the UK immediately recognized it. The only two countries were UK and Pakistan, I believe. Nobody else recognized the Jordanian annexation. They thought it was illegal. And Egypt conquered Gaza, and the UN never demanded that Jordan withdraw from the West Bank and Jerusalem, and Egypt withdraw from Gaza. But they sure did when Syria invaded Lebanon in the 70s, and when Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1991, the UN Security Council passed resolutions demanding that they withdraw, but not so with Israel, right? It makes you wonder what's going on there. Well, see, by Jordan carving up Israel and taking Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank, and Egypt taking Gaza, the UK was able to get by war what they were unable to get by partition plan. They were able to carve up Israel, and they kept pressuring Israel in other ways to make Israel dependent on America, the Anglo-American establishment, the UN, the EU, by funding UNRWA to keep the Palestinian refugees of the war permanent refugees from generation after generation, which had never happened before in history, just as a permanent weapon to be used against Israel. Oh, we want the right to return to all of Israel, right? And then they pressured Israel into a two-state solution. And every time Israel was attacked, the West would intervene and demand that Israel call a ceasefire and stop fighting. And so the PLO could escape to Tunisia, and Hamas could, never be defeated. Israel has never been able to defeat the bad. So this is how the game is played. The globalists are intent on controlling Israel through wars, ceasefires, arming their enemies, and pressuring them into two-state solutions. By the way, the Arabs get most of their weapons from the Soviet Union, made in factories built by Ford Motor Company and other American corporations. Anthony Sutton, who worked at the Hoover Institution, he studied this intensively for 10 years. He wrote a 3-volume series documenting all the ways that Western corporations had transferred technology and built factories in the Soviet Union, and how they built tanks and armored personnel carriers and rocket launchers and everything and transferred them to the Arabs for use against Israel. He came up with the conclusion that 90 to 95% of the Soviet Union's military industrial complex was built by the West and our European allies, UK, France, Germany, other European countries. So anyway, bringing it back to the present, I believe that in order to build a new world order, all the pieces have to be placed to come together at the right time. The globalists are not quite ready to take the final leap toward the new world order. And I can go into that a little bit more.
So what do you think? What do you think, for the sake of time? We're going to have to get you back. But for the sake of time, what do you think that timeline is? Because we have Alice Bailey, the occultist, 70 years ago, whenever she wrote that thing, saying that the outline of the New World Order would come into, and we see the outline of it by 2025.
That's right. And then, but sometimes they're a little ahead of schedule.
Yes, they are.
In 1980, they thought Maitreya would be the new world leader.
That's the New Age Christ they were waiting on, the Maitreya.
Yeah. And then, but here's another date for you. H.G. Wells, in The Shape of Things to Come, wrote that the world government would finally take shape in 2059. So maybe there's a little time left. If you look at history in terms of thousands of years, you might say from the time God breathed the breath of life into Adam and Eve and began human history, the Talmud, I don't know where they came up with this, but they thought the first 2,000 years of human history would be a time of relative, chaos, just kind of everything just coming together kind of haphazardly. And then that's like from 6,000 BC to 4,000, from 4,000 BC to 2000 BC. Then from 2000, for the next 2,000 years to around the time of zero would be the time of law, like from Abraham to the destruction of the temple. That was the period of of Israel and the law of Moses and that kind of thing, the history of Israel in the Bible. And then they said from 0 to 2000 would be the age of the Messiah. They actually said in the Talmud that they should be that the church age really is the messianic age, but they thought that Jesus wasn't the Messiah. They thought they missed it because they weren't righteous enough. They didn't merit the coming of the Messiah. So they didn't understand that the Messiah had to come first to fulfill his priestly function to reconcile man to God by offering himself as a sacrifice for sin. And then he'll come again to set up his kingdom as the ruler. But so if you count 2,000 years from the time when Jesus was crucified, say in 30, then that brings you to 2030. So that kind of makes sense that Agenda 2030 would be a good date to draw that 2,000 year period to an end. That would make 6,000 years of human history. And then the 1,000-year millennium would be kind of like a Sabbath day of the week of human history, right?
So you think we're right on the edge?
Well, I mean, I actually think, I mean, things can move quickly, especially when there's a war. You remember if you look at how things were in 1939 and how they were in 1945, just in the space of 6 years, the world completely changed. And the same thing could happen again. One thing that I think is an important piece is the idea of what John F. Kennedy announced to the UN, that he envisioned and what, as I read, Ben Gurion was in favor of. All the nations of the world need to still hand over their military arsenals to a UN peace force. Because think about it, how can you have a world government unless you control the world army? You cannot have these independent nations like China and Russia and the US, each with their own thousands of nuclear weapons, kind of getting angry at each other and starting war after war after war. No, in order to really dominate the world, you need to control all those weapons. And that was the plan in 1961. Freedom from War. It's a State Department publication. It's in that John F. Kennedy announced it to the world in September 1961. So I believe that, I hate to say this, I hope I'm wrong, but I believe there will be a third world war that will be devastating enough that afterwards, after it's over, they'll have a conference, and just like Potsdam or Yalta or whatever, where they plan the next phase of human history, and they'll say, you know what, this war was so terrible, we all have agreed to just hand over our weapons to the United Nations because we want to just bring an end to war altogether. And then whoever controls the UN will control the world.
How do you think this fits in with Trump's peace board?
Well, I think the main thing that's going on with that is just they're giving Iran a haircut. In other words, Iran got too close to getting the 11 nukes that they even admitted to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, in negotiations. They had 430 pounds of 60% enriched uranium that would only take weeks to enrich it to 90% and have it ready to make into a nuclear bomb. And they have the Shahab 3 missile that is capable of launching it and hitting Israel. And in fact, they can even launch an EMP attack. You've had Peter Pry on many times.
Yep.
And they can even launch a EMP attack and take out our electrical grid. And it's hard to believe that Americans do not see Iran as an existential threat to the United States, because it truly is. And so so that's one thing. Iran was getting too strong, and the globalists were just not ready yet to have the final war, because I think you would agree that the Antichrist will make a peace treaty with Israel. It'll probably be to call a ceasefire after there's a war and Israel has lost a lot of lives and the Arabs have lost a lot of lives, and he'll be able to call a peace treaty. And then the Jews might even believe he's the Messiah, because the Messiah is supposed to usher in world peace, and he would have done it. and he's supposed to rebuild the temple, and there's the temple, right? And so, but when probably, I'm just kind of hypothesizing here, when he sets himself, in Thessalonians, when Paul talks about the man of sin setting himself in the temple and making himself out to be God, the Jews will probably realize that they've been lied to and he's not the Messiah, and they'll refuse to worship him. And then that may bring about a final battle against Israel, where the New World Order just pulls out all the stops, and then that will usher in the return of Jesus to save Israel and establish his kingdom and totally destroy the Roman Empire. I mean, America is part of the reason America is not in Bible prophecy is because America is Rome. It's part of Rome. Cecil Rhodes wanted to reincorporate it into the British Empire, and he did.
Yeah, we just read from Carol Quigley and Cecil Rhodes talking about that, right? We're going to take back the United States and make it a part of Europe.
Well, and then we know how it happened too. The Council on Foreign Relations was established as a satellite group for the roundtable groups, for the main one in England, the Royal Institute of International Affairs. And then if you add to that the Federal Reserve System, which has shareholders, they're part of the Bank of International Settlements and part of the whole Bank of London and Deutsche Bank and all the European banks. And then our entry into World War I, our writing of the UN Charter, our building the UN headquarters here. I mean, we are totally on board.
The former Dick Morris. Dick Morris wrote about George W. Bush in his final days in office, shoves America up under the Economic Stability Board, dominated by Europe. Then you've got, of course, the International Monetary Fund, dominated by Europe. So there are so many ways in which we've already shoved ourselves up under Europe.
Right. But I want to emphasize Bible prophecy for a moment, and you've taught on this in going through Daniel and Revelation, that Daniel 2 talks about the stone not cut with human hands, that's Jesus, smashes the feet of iron mixed with clay and just brings down all of the world empires together. The Roman Empire, the Persian, the Medo-Persian, the Greek, and the Babylonian. And so what that means, since Jesus hasn't set up his kingdom yet, that means that Rome never fell. Rome, the Rome back in Jesus' day, of the time of the Caesars and the emperors, that was the first phase, which lasted to about 800 AD, and then Charlemagne inaugurated the second phase, which is the Holy Roman Empire. And then the third phase was inaugurated May 1st, 1776 by Adam Weishaupt when he founded the Bavarian Illuminati. And that is the present day Roman Empire, the New World Order that is going to rule the world, and that's going to have the mark of the beast and totally implement the cashless society.
Which is why I think, Revelation, the seven heads are seven mountains, seven heads, seven mountains are seven kings, five have fallen, one is and one is to come. Five have fallen by the time John was writing. One was Rome at the time he was writing, and one is yet to come, a revived Roman Empire, meaning that those nations and their geographical area and their historical influence, all of that is still maintained, which is consistent with what you're saying. It's all still there.
That's right. In fact, Rome actually incorporates elements of all the previous ones.
Right.
If you look at the way the streets of Washington are laid out with the obelisk of the Washington Monument and the rotunda of the Capitol building, and is the way it's modeled after St. Petersburg in Rome, and it goes back to Isis and Osiris and all the Babylonian mystery religions. It's really all of human history rolled into one. In fact, I think Rome is the sixth empire that Israel has had to overcome. And so let me see if I can count these right. You've got Egypt and Assyria and Babylonia and Medo-Persia and Greece and Rome. So Rome is the sixth. But if you divide Rome up into three parts, as I was saying, three phases, then you've got 666. That might be where the number of the mark of the beast comes from.
Fascinating. This is a fascinating conversation. We're going to get you back. In the meantime, he actually has a X account, and I'm following it, and I have been for some time. So there you go. It's at iPodster, EYEPODSTER, and you can follow him. And we're going to get you back. Fascinating, just kind of back and forth conversation tonight. Ari.
Yeah, I'd be glad to get my email. I don't have a website, but I could give my email out if you'd like.
Give it out.
Too.
Yeah, give it out.
It's just, my name with no spaces. So Ari Goldberg 1 at gmail.com.
Ari Goldberg 1, the number 1, the Roman numeral 1 at gmail.com.
Yeah, that's it. Well, thank you so much, Brandon.
Hey, thank you. Send us over some slides and JPEGs, and next conversation we'll show some of the pictures and some of the research you're doing.
Yeah, will do.
Look forward to it. Excellent. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank
Ari
you.
checking in tonight. Fascinating interview. A longtime listener, a Messianic Jewish gentleman. And I love talking to my Messianic Jewish friends when it comes to Israel and Bible prophecy, because they have a very unique and I think clear eye understanding, because many of them understand this through, of course, the Jewish perspective, which is so important. Even when we talk about so many things like the marriage supper of the Lamb, Jesus saying, I've go to prepare a place for you. And if I go prepare a place for you, I'll come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Preparing in the Father's house for the bride, right? And then the waiting period, then the calling up of the bride, and then the marriage supper of the Lamb. And when you start studying these things through the lens of Jewish tradition, it starts to have a whole different meaning that really helps us to understand things so much better and clearer, I think, which is why I like talking to people like Ari Goldberg, as well as studying guys like Arnold Fruchtenbaum and what they're saying. So I love these kind of conversations. We'll be right back with an update from our friend Annie Cyrus. Don't go away.
3 years ago, the United States was stunned by an announcement from war-torn Korea. U.S. Army Private David Hawkins and 20 other prisoners of the communists had become turncoats. They had renounced their own country and disappeared behind Red China's bamboo curtain.
What had you heard? Well, only what our Chinese captors had told us, how great they were working toward socialism, and the great strides that they were taking, bettering the life of the Chinese people who for so many thousands of years had lived a life of oppression under various governments.
Joining me now is Annie Cyrus. All right, Annie, you're the last guest for the night. Clean up. You know, there's a song, clean up, everybody clean up. That's you tonight, Annie. That's what I used to sing to my kids when I was trying to clean up all the toys. All right, you're clean up tonight, Annie. What is going on? J.D. Vance over there in Switzerland. Here he is, in fact, telling us how much he loves Pakistan. Here we go. Watch and listen. Here we go.
Are you about the Pakistani role, especially?
Very good. We love Pakistan. Thank you.
What a moron. Well, I mean, what was Donald Trump looking for? The stupidest guy he could pick? Hey, let's pick a stupid guy so I look so smart. Hey, J.D. Vance. Here we go. Here is this AI, Logan, or is this real? Watch this.
It's not just that the Republican Party base is somehow fundamentally flawed in a way that's unique in American political history. It's that Trump is a really bad candidate, and frankly, I think a really bad person.
Is that real, Logan, or is that AI?
That's real.
That's real?
Yeah.
He really said that, and yet Donald Trump still picked him. I thought I had another one or two of him saying this. Let's see. Saying something. I don't know what. Here. No, that's not it. There's a bunch of those going around. Anyway, there you go. J.D. Vance. What a piece of work. Didn't he say he has he has two women or two loves in his life? Did he not say something about that? One of them. Yeah. Here we go. No, this is the clip. Here it is. Here we go. Here's the other one. But then I think he says about two loves in his life or something too. We'll get into that. Here we go.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
There is definitely an element of Donald Trump support that has its basis in racism or xenophobia. I know who I'm going to vote for. I'm definitely not going to vote for Trump.
But Vance predicted a Trump loss.
But I've noticed this willingness from people who think a lot like I do that, look, we told you so. We told you that Trump was going to be a terrible candidate. We told you that you were an idiot if you voted for him.
And in now deleted tweets, J.D. Vance called Trump reprehensible. Fellow Christians, everyone is watching us when we apologize for this man. Lord help us, Vance wrote. Privately, Vance was even more critical, messaging a friend that Trump could be, quote, America's Hitler.
I'm a never Trump guy.
That's, again, all real? That's not AI, none of that?
No, that's all real.
And yet Trump picked him. And this guy was...
Yes, because he had an overnight epiphany when he woke up and said, I was so wrong. You're the best choice for this country. And literally overnight, he became a Trump supporter. By the way, what you're playing are a good fit for your network, but these are not the worst things he has said about Trump.
Here we go. Here's another one, whatever this means.
Field Marshal Munir welcomed us with the Prime Minister in Islamabad. I have joked that I have two very, very important people in my life, an Indian and a Pakistani. The Indian is my wife, and the Pakistani is Field Marshal Munir. And I've probably talked to Field Marshal Munir more than I've talked to anybody else over the last 3 months. We would not be here without his statesmanship. He is, of course, a great military leader, but I think he's shown himself to be a great diplomat. And, of course...
Does he own a bunch of convenience stores? I think he owns a bunch of convenience stores.
Field Marshal Munir welcomed us with the Prime Minister in Islamabad. I have joked that I have two very, very important people in my life, an Indian and a Pakistani.
And they run my gas station. Does he own gas stations, Logan? I don't know. Joining me again is Annie. Hello, Annie.
Hello, Brandon.
You're the cleanup tonight.
I have no idea how to clean up after all of that.
So what is going on? What do you make of this?
I mean, for me, it's just what should have happened. Not just, and I know a lot of people are very upset with Vance. I'm not, because from day one, I didn't trust Vance.
He's never going to be president unless President Trump, doesn't finish his second term.
Are you sure about that?
You think he could get enough votes to be president?
I'm sorry. I didn't know you need enough votes to be president in America anymore.
Well,
my bad.
True.
My bad. You're
that's
right.
True. Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I don't know. I think he will be, regardless of Trump finishing his term or not.
You see a President Vance in the future?
Yes, this country has faced President Hussein Obama and a president who always thought he's still a senator named Joe Biden. Compared to those two, J.D. Vance fits the narrative even easier, especially with the huge gap in the MAGA base right now. There won't even be a pushback. There's still enough MAGA base who will vote for him, but it won't be enough to win it. However, there will be enough noise to convince people that it was a legit win. Again, all of this is part of the bigger...
Or is this destroying the MAGA base so Newsom walks in?
Well, that's the part for the Democrats. But for the shadow government, for lack of a better term, or for lack of a better familiar term, to infiltrate the Republican Party was also part of it, was to divide the base for that very reason. Again, I have, between the memorandum itself and the upcoming deal and Vance actions and Trump's reactions, I still see split reactions online. Those who are defending him, them being everything I just said, those who are now upset about it. I have seen people put a post up of, I'm done with Trump. I have people who have put up J.D. Vance 2028 best option. So, and that's always why I'm so against divisions. The more divisions inside division, the faster they can get us to where they want us. And J.D. Vance is a key player in that position. I highly doubt they're going to allow a Marco Rubio to take power. Not because I think Marco Rubio is perfect. I should put this out there. But Marco Rubio is against a lot of end goals, and he will try to push back. So, and as far as making a comment about loving Pakistan, of course he does. I know. Pakistan, he's warning about Europe being conquered by Muslims and having nuclear weapon already, while he's praising Pakistan, an existing Islamic country with nuclear weapons. Those double standards explains a lot for people who are asking the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are.
Here we are. I think we got another clip from JD in Switzerland. Let's listen to this. We'll see what he says.
Well, we want Israel's security to be protected, and we also want Lebanon's sovereignty to be protected, and this is going to be an ongoing conversation. The Israelis have been very clear they do not have territorial intentions on South Lebanon. The reason they feel they have to be there is because they're worried about Hezbollah fighters in South Lebanon firing into Israel. We do believe, of course it's going to require a lot of hard work, that we can get to a place where Lebanon's territorial integrity and sovereignty is protected, Israel's security is protected, and that's going to require some coordination with the Lebanese armed forces, and also it's going to require the Iranians to rein in Hezbollah. That's all the sort of things that we were talking about yesterday. And again, I think that we got much further compared to where we were just 24 hours ago.
You know, they're worried. They're worried about Hezbollah. I mean, I don't even like the way he worded that, because this idea that they're worried somehow implies that they have concerns that aren't legitimate, perhaps. And yet we saw today this underground tunnel, concrete floor, ceiling, walls, very professional tunnel. This isn't a dirt tunnel. This is a very professional concrete tunnel from which we now find all of these rocket launchers and different military armament. Look at those things. I mean, so this idea, oh, well, they're concerned. I don't even like the way he worded that. Annie?
I don't either, but
how about he should say they have a legitimate concern due to the rockets that are being fired at them.
That would have been a much better choice of words, but the bigger, I don't know if you're planning to play the rest of that speech, but that's where the bigger problem came in.
Well, tell me what it is and we'll find it real quick. What did he say?
Well, that's where he said something that's also bothering him is how Bibi's cabinet members are coming out criticizing the deal. Mm-hmm. That part wasn't the biggest issue. What comes after, which I agree with some people out there saying this is exactly why for a while a lot of cabinet members have said we don't want American money anymore because this is how they put a leash on us. He basically gave them an ultimatum. What he would call diplomatically, but I heard everything he said, and it was an ultimatum. It's one thing to say we're worried about this and worried about that. It's another thing when you completely bash your supposed ally right after dismissing the real concerns and dangers they're facing on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Logan found it. This was at the White House the other day. Here we go.
The Axios report, that Netanyahu is fuming. That's not reflective of the conversations that I've had with him, but maybe he's saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you have seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in.
Is that it? Is that it, Annie?
Yes, that's the one. And that's where do I even go with that? Number one, Israel isn't the only country. Almost 70% of Iranians today say the same thing, that their biggest problem right now is President Trump. They're literally saying if Trump didn't interfere, and if Trump didn't stop Israel, and if Trump didn't start negotiation, they could have possibly have a free Iran today. So Israel isn't the only country in the nation who's considering Trump their biggest obstacle today. Secondly, yes, those offenses were paid by American dollar and American tax dollar. That has nothing to do with the president of America. President, you are inside America. Our freedoms allow anyone to attack verbally anybody. Secondly, President of United States of America, including Trump, are no exception to the rules of politics. When he steps in and absolutely adds to the daily danger of people of Israel, anyone in Israel government or Israeli streets have the right to say he's a problem. Now, and I agree, me and you have been saying that he needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation for a while now. But that's the truth. Why is the truth bothering him so much? Because I should say, it bothers me too. Truth shouldn't bother you, sir. When you put a post out saying, my fellow Christians, we're going to be apologizing for this man, Lord have mercy on us. You're covering up for this man today. That's a nice change of scenery for him, for sure.
And he's also, I've already played it a couple times today, but I want your response. He's also seems to be picking up some of the language of the folks that say horrible things about the Jews and how they defend their little small country the size of New Jersey, surrounded by Islamic nations. He seems to be picking up on some of the language they have used. J.D. Vance is. Here we go.
But yeah, you've seen people in their system, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, who've attacked the deal. And I guess my response to them would be, what is your exact proposal? And, you're a country of 9 million people. You can't just kill your way out of solving every single national security problem that you have.
As though that's what they've done. Israel hasn't just killed their way out of every problem. They gave up the whole Gaza Strip, for Pete's sake. They pulled Jews out of there that built homes and businesses and vineyards and gardens and schools. They pulled them all out, trying to give peace a chance. Every time they turn around, they take the Temple Mount, then they turn around and they give custodian of it to the Muslims. What is he talking about? As though this is the only thing they've ever done is to try to use the military to solve all their problems. I don't think he knows what I just said. I would venture to guess if he came on my show live, but he won't. He won't come on my show. And I think we now are starting to figure out why. He couldn't keep up with me. Okay? Because I guarantee you, he doesn't know some of the things that you and I know about Israel and their history and what they've done. Annie?
I agree. He most certainly doesn't know. However, I don't think what he's saying is based on lack of knowledge, but rather it's a talking point that's being fed to the White House, including, this didn't start yesterday. Starting last year, right after the ceasefire of 12 days, President Trump was the first one to start bad-mouthing Bibi in Israel. It's been ongoing development and progress that now we get to this point. And another thing about not just J.D. Vance, but America altogether, including 50% of Americans, is that we are in the past. We are in the past. Israel is in the future. That's the difference. Israel has done all the diplomacy and the talks and the peace deal and the temporary ceasefire. They've done it all. We just haven't done it yet.
Well, Mike Huckabee apparently keeps checking social media, True Social, to make sure he still has a job. Have you heard that?
I have heard that. Yes, I mean, isn't the same thing for Hexet and Rubio?
Yeah, they're all making these stuff a job. Here we go.
So today, before I got here, I did something that I thought was very important. I checked President Trump's social media to make sure this was not my last speech in Israel. As you know, he typically fires people in the middle of the night by way of social media. So I wanted to make sure that there was a reason for me to come.
Good for him.
I'm happy to report that so far, so good.
I know they all took that as a joke. I don't think he's joking, and I think he was sending a very loud message there, and maybe even getting ahead of the narrative, if you will. Mike Huckabee may be smart enough as a former governor and presidential candidate, politician, to get ahead of the whole narrative. So I think there was a lot that was said that wasn't said. There was a lot said that wasn't said right then.
Agreed, 100%. I don't think that was a joke. That
Nope.
There was a clear message. I heard it. I mean, he didn't say it, but I did hear it too. Yes, and again, it's not partially, but within the joke, there is a lot of reality. It's how many people have been fired, not because they did something wrong, but because simply they disagreed with Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Trump, again, the double standard, the hypocrisy that J.D. Vance just brought up 3 clips ago. Trump has the right to use his own platform to badmouth anybody he wants, to trash anybody he wants, to big anybody he wants up, but nobody else has that right. That's what a narcissist sound like. I'll do what I want to do. I'll say what I want to say about people using any kind of terminology I see fit. But if anybody even respectfully disagree with me, then they're going to be fired. And if they're not working for me, then they're going to be smeared. And if the smear doesn't work, then I'm going to make sure the campaign is destroyed and they never win any seats.
Yep. And
That's not America first.
No. Excuse me, that was
Trump
me
first.
queuing up the next clip and it bled over. Sorry for that. Because Mike Huckabee doubled down at the Jewish News Syndicate conference on Monday in Israel. He doubled down of saying, really, quite frankly, separate from what President Trump has said. Israel wouldn't exist if it wasn't for me, President Trump said. Listen to what Mike Huckabee has said again, a second time.
It is upon the Jewish foundation that Christianity was formed, and upon the Jewish and Judeo-Christian foundation, Western civilization was formed, and without that, there would not be an America. It is as simple as that.
There may be another country here, but there would not be the constitutional republic of America based on the laws of God, the Decalogue, the moral law, which we understand through the revelation of the Holy Spirit, moving on to the Jewish writers, all except for Luke, who gave us the Bible, upon which our founders, not all of them of which were Christians, but almost all of them at least respected and acknowledged the idea of absolute truth, the laws of nature, nature's God, that there is a moral law and a moral lawgiver, and they wanted this form of government because man can be either restrained from within or from without, but the hearts of men are increasingly evil, therefore they must be restrained, and therefore we must have a constitutional republic which says we will not go against the laws of God. We won't be a democracy, the mobocracy of the 51% ruling the day. So there would be another country here, but it wouldn't be the America we have known for 250 years, although it's really not the America that was founded 250 years ago. There are a few of the characteristics of it left, but not much. But he's right. There would be another country here, but not what we have known as a constitutional republic, which was specifically based on the law of the divine, Annie.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm so glad. I don't know what's going to happen to him, career-wise, but I'm so glad that we still have one man inside our government, if I might, who's still standing for the truth, regardless of consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad we only have one, I wish we had more. I wish people would be, would stop worrying about it. But I'm glad we have him for now.
Let's see what else he said.
I had people excoriating me from around the world saying, how dare you say it? I would say, how dare you flunked history? Are you not aware that our founders wanted to put as the seal of America the parting of the Red Sea?
Mm-hmm.
That in the House of Representatives in the United States, there is a marble fixture of Moses, not of Cicero, not of Aristotle or Plato, of Moses. Because our history is tied more to Mount Sinai than it is to Athens or Rome. It's tied to neither of them. It's tied to Israel. The 3,800-year continuity of the Jewish people from the time God said to Abraham, I'm going to make you a great people, and through you the world will be blessed. When our founders understood, they understood it in such a way that even in our Declaration of Independence, we made very clear that our rights don't come from government, they come from God. They come from the Creator. And where did they get that notion? They got it all the way back to this very city in Jerusalem. They got it clearly from the time of an unbroken history of the Jewish people having been connected to God and being a light to the world. And I want there to be no misunderstanding. Americans, whether they understand it or not, need to be grateful to God for the Jewish people and the foundation upon which freedom and the sanctity of the individual was founded, because that is what separates our values from the values of totalitarianism and dictatorship. I want no part of that. I like freedom, and the heart, the soul, and the genesis of that came from right here in this land. Let us never be apologetic for it.
Wow.
Wow. Agreed.
Yep.
By the way, so I don't know how many of your audience remember this. We being U.S. military, early April, we hit a bridge in Karaj, which was my hometown, and it was claimed that it's being used to transport missiles or whatever. I was one of the people who confirmed that it was actually just a civilian bridge called B1 that was hit. I have reports from Iran International, including a video, that apparently the rebuild of B1 bridge has started in Karaj today. And seems like President Donald Trump has decided to call it Iran's George Washington Bridge. And he has also said that he ordered the hit because Iranians showed up late to the meeting before that day. This is not, I don't know, I might be overthinking it, but where is he going with this? Like, what is this true, or what they claimed originally is true? Because we all knew, we being Iranians, we knew that's just a civilian bridge. And the people who died weren't just accidental casualties. So is he confirming that he knew it's just a civilian bridge? And the rebuild of it should be called George Washington Bridge? What is that about? Why is he seeking it George W? Why is he not calling it Donald Trump Bridge in Karaj?
Let's go to this story. Iran will use unfrozen funds to buy American crops, Trump says. How do we know that? Once they get the funds, how do we know that?
I'm sorry, what did Iran say?
Trump is saying Iran's going to use the unfrozen funds to buy American crops.
I want to know where he got this information.
Apparently this is Jared Kushner's. J.D. Vance said this is Jared Kushner's idea.
Mm-mm. No, Iran is not going to use the unfrozen assets or funds to buy American Corp or anything else for that matter. They are going to rebuild their military, the IRGC bases, send more money. They just released the latest passed bill of funding for Hezbollah. They need to cover that. So that's where the money's going to go.
And then let's talk about an Iranian. You said this was going to happen, that the FIFA games would be used to get people in here. And the New York Post is reporting that indeed we have Iranian with direct ties to IRGC try to enter the U.S. posing as World Cup soccer team's president.
Yes, that actually, let's say that came out yesterday. Iran game was yesterday. There's another report of that the federation of the team itself tried to pretend there's a medic that needs to come in with them who had tied to IRGC. Yes.
And then we have a news agency reporting that a boat wouldn't stop. I guess they fired on it down in Florida. 25 Chinese on board. Isn't it interesting? At the time this is all going on, Iranians coming into the country, Chinese coming into the country, not to mention the 100,000 are already here. Does it sound like they're getting ready for fighting the next war on our soil, as Gordon Chang has predicted will happen, Annie?
Not this year, but yes, they are.
Oh, that's good news. Not this year. Okay. What year?
Yes, they have no reason. I go back to my original thesis that this year, midterm, they're winning too good to create any kind of chaos connected to Islam. They're going to wait for next year.
2027.
Next year is 2027 when they need the next wave. And it's not about the jihad, the combat jihad itself. It's about the deception jihad and propaganda jihad, where they need the next wave of the victim card of Muslims is kind of fading away. They need the new batch of victim cards. They need the next round where they're going to cry Islamophobia.
But that takes a terrorist attack like 9/11 just didn't be able to scream Islamophobia.
Exactly.
So,
that's why I said that needs to be renewed by after the midterm.
Okay.
Next year.
So in conclusion, how do you see this all playing out with Iran and the Trump administration? Do they, in this 60 days, do they come to an agreement? Do they sign a deal? Do they not sign a deal? What do you see happening?
Absolutely not.
No deal.
Iran has made it very clear, and I hope your audience understand, I'm not defending the regime in Iran. I'm just reporting what they are saying because you don't hear it. They don't tell you what the Iranian side is saying. Publicly in their media and at the meeting, what they're saying is they are not looking for a deal with America as long as the entire frozen money is not released and that the entire $300 billion investment money is not released. Now, could we have a deal if Trump administration agrees to release the entire $300 billion investment plus the $24 billion frozen money? Then yes, we'll have a deal. But then that's not a deal at all. It's a paper signed against the Middle East and the entire world. Because with that amount of money, good luck ever stopping the mullahs and IRGC.
liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Thank you as always, and thank you for doing cleanup tonight.
Absolutely. I'm not sure how much I cleaned up, but thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being on the broadcast. Annie Cyrus. All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. As always, thank you for supporting us at worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Mark your calendar now, folks, for October 23rd and 24th, our National Worldview Weekend in Milwaukee at the Waukesha Expo Center. For the first time in 22 years, it's free, but you must have a ticket. worldviewtube.com/events, worldviewtube.com/events. And as we go off the air tonight would be right now would be a great time to go order your 2-volume set hardcover, 2,100 pages of the Revelation commentary that has now gone to page layout, worldviewstore.com. Till next time, I'm Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work,